Hey everybody, it's Dugan Kelly from Kelly Clark. Hope all of you are well and safe, especially those of you from around the country that are sheltering in place right now because of COVID-19. Hope this video is helpful for you, that it is a resource. Remember, if you think the contents of this video are applicable to your situation, we encourage you to reach out to your specific lawyer. And if that's us, please call us and schedule a time so we can talk about your particular situation. So I wanted to create this video in particular because we were receiving a lot of calls from people around the country, specifically owners of multifamily properties, asking what happens in the event that our tenants can't or don't pay their rents. As you know, we're coming up on April. We're in the midst of a pandemic. There's a lot of concern in the marketplace that tenants just simply can't or will not be able to pay their rent, thereby causing a rippling effect. And the owners of multifamily properties might not be able to pay their debt service, their mortgage payment. So as you may know, Congress recently enacted the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Securities Act. That's a mouthful. The acronym is the CARES Act. So you may know that law by the CARES Act. Well, that was signed into law on March 27th, 2020. So it's hot off the presses. And it allows, in part, for owners of multifamily properties to ask and seek assistance from the servicers, their servicers, the people that they pay their mortgage payments on a monthly basis to, for forbearance. This part of the CARES Act is available to any borrower that was current on their mortgage payments as of February 1, 2020, and you may request forbearance. What does that mean? Well, that means that the lender, your lender, will grant you the ability to not make your mortgage payments for a period of time. Well, that sounds great, right? So how do I qualify? What are the criteria? Well, if you're an owner of a multifamily property and you have a federally backed loan, remember, this is specific as to Freddie, Fannie, or HUD loans. The borrower, or you as the owner, must attest that you are experiencing COVID-19 financial hardship, right? i.e., my tenants are not paying their rent or other financial hardship as a result of the pandemic. The initial period of forbearance is 30 days, but there are two additional forbearance periods of 30 days each for you. But here's the catch, right? You must make a request for an extension. So remember, these are 30-day extensions. So you have to make another request for an extension. And that extension must be between when the CARES Act became effective, so March 27th, 2020, and the earlier of the COVID-19 termination, meaning if there's a cure or the restrictions put in place nationwide are lifted, if that date comes before December 31st, 2020, that would be the time when you would have needed to make your extension request. And also you need to make it 15 days prior to the end of your initial forbearance period. So there are some little catches there that you need to be aware of. Again, if you have a federally backed loan, you should reach out and talk to your attorney if this is something that might be helpful for you. If you take forbearance, remember, you cannot evict or begin eviction procedures against tenants for non-payment of rent. You can't charge late fees or other penalties for late rent. And this applies basically to all tenants, regardless of whether they are affected by COVID-19 or not. In other words, they don't have to have the virus in order for you to say, well, they're not affected. So as a result, this doesn't really apply. No, it applies to all of your tenants. So if you take forbearance, just remember that this applies to all the tenants. If you take forbearance, remember that this is a forbearance. This is not a we never have to pay the government back or our lender back any of those missed mortgage payments. It just simply means we're pushing pause on the requirement for us to pay that back. So we need to pay the debt service back. It's typically in equal monthly installments after the forbearance period. You need to allow your tenants, likewise, to also pay their missed rent back over a period, typically equal monthly installments with their regular rent. And then and we've done an earlier video on business interruptions insurance, if you had business interruptions insurance, remember, it's likely that Uncle Sam is going to say, hey, you need to give us prepay those proceeds up front. Remember, regardless of the forbearance aspect, there's a temporary moratorium on evictions anyways. These are for federally backed loans like Freddie, Fannie, and HUD. Even if you don't take forbearance, remember right now for 120 days after the enactment of CARES, no landlords on federally backed loans may begin eviction proceedings, or charge late fees for non-payment of rent. Landlords are not permitted to require tenants to vacate properties until 30 days after the landlord provides the tenant with the notice to vacate, which cannot be issued until 120 days after CARES was enacted. In other words, there's a longer period of time within which essentially evictions can even take place than your forbearance period. So there's really not a big reason why you shouldn't seriously think about, if you're the owner or operator of a multifamily property, why you shouldn't seriously think about availing yourself of the possibility for forbearance. I hope this content was helpful. If you have questions or you'd like to reach out, here's our contact information. Please feel free. Hope this is a resource for you and your families during this difficult time on the issue of forbearance in particular. So we'll talk to you soon.